Hi guys, I'm Shmee, hello and welcome back to the channel where from here at the Shmuseum we need a what's next update, a complete overview of the Shmeemobiles, because there's been a lot going on. Having spent over a month in the USA, it was the most amazing of tours, but I came straight back into the incredible Goodwood Festival of Speed. It has been manic, but now it's time to talk about a few things, because you might notice there are a few missing Shmeemobiles at the moment. Lots of you have been asking me about the likes of the SLS Black Series, the DBS, the STO, the SF90, the GTC4Lusso, and wondering about when the GT500 is going to touch down here at the Shmuseum. But we also need to touch on a few little delays to inbound cars for the future. A bit of an overview of all of the cars currently on their way to the collection, and a few others that are of interest as well. We're going to touch on all of this today as part of an update. As you can see, we've got the cars back from Goodwood, all gleaming and looking lovely here at the Shmuseum, but there's plenty more we need to go through. There are actually a whole load of other things we need to update on as well, like the two loan cars that we currently have, the Cupra Formentor plus the electric Mini. We need to touch on the F1 show car and the next plans with that. Also, where's the Elise? The Elise has been missing for a short while. We'll talk about that. And even the Mercedes-Benz E-Class, the E-Class estate, that's not here right now. But I think firstly, we will talk about the two imminent new cars to join the collection. One we saw just the other day, the other we've had a teaser of, and those are the Zenvo TSR-S and the Lotus Emira. It was beyond epic to have the Zenvo on their stand in the supercar paddock at the Goodwood Festival of Speed. A dream come true, and even more awesome that so many of you guys were able to see it there as well. Now, as I said, when we took the sneak peek, the preview, if you will, of the completed car, is that it still needs to go back to the factory in Denmark. It's on the way there now to have all of the final shakedown, to get it fully registered, of course, as well, and to deal with the small matter of paying for it. And it is by far the most expensive car that I've ever bought, so that's something I'm trying to work out at this moment in time. Eventually, though, it will be back here in the UK for PPF, and to then enjoy the drive and what's ahead with it. So it's a very complicated process, as you can imagine. Mine will actually be the first ever Zenvo that will wear a UK registration. So we're trying to sort out all of that in the process, and there will be plenty more updates very soon. I'll go back over to Denmark to try and share parts of the shakedown process with you as well. The next arrival is going to be the Lotus Emira. Now, the Lotus was originally due probably in May, June-ish, but I think they announced fairly early on it was going to push back a little bit more. Well, due to parts supply shortages, which will affect a number of the other cars that are currently missing that I need to tell you about, it has pushed back a little bit further. And personally, I expect it probably to arrive around September, maybe. I'd have liked it a little bit earlier into the summer, but there are only so many things you can do. Now, I put down a very early deposit for the Emira, so I will probably still be one of the first cars, but they did send out an update to the customers, to the early cars that are due to be delivered, letting us all know that they're going to be a little bit late due to all of these supply issues, which seems to be plaguing the entirety of the industry. Well, not even just the industry, the entirety of the globe in every possible way at the moment. So I don't think it's fair to criticize them too much for that. It will arrive when it arrives, and for the meantime, in theory, we have the Elise, but we do need to explain where the Elise is right now as well. So those are the first two cars to arrive next. The more time that goes by, the more I'm starting to work out which cars I'd like to have where. And the initial plan at the moment, and it will change down the line, is that here we'll have the GT Black Series next to the SLS Black Series. I'm well aware that's the Vantage GT8, which will come over to this side very shortly, but the SLS Black Series will live tucked in here at some point soon. So we have those two side by side with the C63 over there. Yeah, this is all going to move just a little bit. Sorry, it's quite confusing at the moment, but it does beg the question, where is the SLS? And this is probably the $1 million question right now that I get asked multiple times a day, every day without fail, and there will be a full update very soon. So if we wind back, the last time I actually drove the car was Christmas Day, when I drove it back home from Germany, where we had left it at the end of the Black Series tour last October, drove it to the UK, and decided it needed quite a lot of work. Now, when my friend Parker from Vehicle Virgins came by the other day, I kind of mistakenly said it was having an engine rebuild. It's not really an engine rebuild per se, but it is having a lot of work done to it. Things like a bespoke heat shield for the exhaust system, things like a replacement to various of the sensors and parts that have actually got quite hot over the time because I've been driving it really hard. And all of this is stuff that takes time, lots of time, and lots more time. We do actually have all of the parts now, which means we'll have a full update very soon, and we're hoping this might actually touch on some of the power issues that it had in the early days, which lots of you have asked me about ever since. We basically gave up trying to work that out because we couldn't get to the bottom of it, but fingers crossed, we might have an answer. So hopefully we can take it up to GAD like the guys did with the C63, pop it onto the dyno at some point and see how that's going to be running. But first, we'll have a full update to explain all of it before eventually it'll be back here at the Shmuseum. At the moment then, I think there are at least 7 missing cars that are out for all sorts of different reasons, including the SLS, but we've covered that off. So the 2 Ferraris, the Lusso is actually over getting a few more bits of PPF and some of the plastic at the front replaced, which actually picked up a few stone chips. So you can't put PPF on things that aren't painted. So that should be gone for a week or 2, I would expect. The SF90, frustratingly, has a sensor that needs replacing. It's not a particularly big deal in the slightest, but it does mean it's currently with the dealership just to have that done. The part should be here in a few days and it should be straight back again. But if you're wondering where the 2 Ferraris are, they're both gone for the very short term. The STO has actually been with my dad for a while. That's why it's been away. I think Tom mentioned that on one of the vlogs. That will be back here very soon. Again, actually, we're going to get some new PPF on it. It's got a few marks just up at the front, as does the Ford GT, to be honest, which I think we showed when we went down to Goodwood's Supercar Sunday. Just down here, needs a new piece of PPF over the front bumper. So rotating the cars in through Topaz at the moment, which actually answers where the DBS is. The DBS is actually at Topaz. After we did the paintwork, that's been getting PPF for the front end and for the sills, and should actually be back today, maybe even in this video. We shall find out shortly. So that leaves us with the E-Class Estate, the newest Shmeemobile technically. Well, that's actually just outside. No big deal on that front. Then we've got the Elise. The Elise is now, believe it or not, on about 5,000 miles. You might remember I said it belongs to a friend of mine. He's kindly allowed me to drive it a lot. Well, he basically said, I'm going on a really big road trip, and took it everywhere around Europe. And I actually received some photos from some of you of it in Italy, in various different locations. And at some point, it will be coming back, but he's driving it for as long as he wants to enjoy it for the time being, which is so cool. I think that car might get to 10,000 miles quicker than pretty much any other customer-owned Elise out there, and it's even more special given it's the final one at the end of all of that. So that leaves us with perhaps just the GT500, which of course we loaded up in the USA a couple of weeks ago. Well, it's probably only about 10 days, 2 weeks ago. It's going to get here, I think, touching down in the UK around early to mid-August, but then it needs about 4 to 6 weeks to go through the conversion process. So we're going to see it when it arrives here, if I'm here, and then we'll see it a little bit through that process with my car import before eventually it should be here maybe by the end of September. That's the kind of goal I'm looking for at the moment. So that'll be quite exciting when it is eventually here with all of the others. The only green car currently in the collection, and it will probably sit right under the Heritage RS back there on the lifts. As I joked at the time, the Goodwood Festival of Speed is often my chosen launching ground for the announcement of future Shmeemobiles, and this year was no different. Having let you know the news about the Ferrari 296 GTS, another convertible to join the collection with the 675 LT Spider, the V8 Vantage Roadster, and also the AMG GTR Roadster. Now, I used to be a massive convertible fan, especially in the earlier years of the Shmee 150 channel, but only 3 of the current cars out of about 20 or so are convertible. So it's nice to add the 296, a different take, the hybrid V6, and I'm very much looking forward to that, although it probably won't arrive until the tail end of 2023. I suspect, having only just been introduced and with the GTBs to come first, the UK won't see customer cars until the middle of 2023, summer, that kind of thing, and mine will be a little bit later. So maybe at the end of the year if I'm lucky, or slightly earlier on into 2024, which feels like a very, very long time away at the moment. I've also talked about the Morgan Super 3. I'm potentially going to push my order back a little bit so that the car arrives maybe at the start of next year, the start of 2023, rather than the beginning of winter, when I know I'm going to be away a lot, and that being a car that is much more suited to fairer weather than driving in the rain and potentially the sleet and slush and snow and who knows what else. So maybe some updates to come with that during a first drive in the not too distant future. I'll see if I can get behind the wheel of one to experience it for myself. Another car that you guys ask me about still very often is one that takes us back a few years, and that's the new TVR Griffith. Now, what I've said many times, I would love that car to come to fruition, and if it does, you will certainly see one here at the garage. I'm not entirely confident at this stage. So let's just put it to bed. At the moment, there is no news. There's probably not about to be news per se. If it arrives, brilliant. If it doesn't, well, there we go. There won't really be any more news about that to come. I think there are going to be other things, and certainly there are cars that interest me, but for the cars that are on the horizon, shall we say, I think that covers it for the time being. Before I get to other cars for the future that I might be interested in, I'd like to touch on our two long-term loaners that we have here at the Shmuseum. The electric Mini, which is kind of acting as my daily to and from, shall we say, and the team car, the Cupra Formentor, which replaced the Audi RS3 Saloon that we had before. Now, we're very lucky to be able to run these long-term test cars thanks to the manufacturers, the respective manufacturers, and we're certainly getting some good mileage out of the Cupra Formentor at the moment. It's done a few runs down to Goodwood for the Festival of Speed, but this is a car as tested that comes in at £48,000. Now, to put that into some context, that's actually about 10% more than the V8 Vantage Roadster. Now, obviously, it doesn't come with the running costs of a 13-year-old Aston Martin. It is a brand new car, but it is an interesting comparison in my head in terms of driving experiences. And it replaced the Audi RS3 Saloon that we had before, which was around about £60,000. But I have to be completely honest with you, the Cupra isn't really doing it for me at this stage. I find some of the technology and systems a little bit fussy and awkward. It has a lovely big screen in the center for your wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, and that's completely brilliant. But overall, it just doesn't make me scream and shout, yes, this is awesome, which other cars perhaps do, like the RS3 that we had before. So I need to spend a bit more time behind the wheel to become a little bit more familiar with it. On the other hand, however, the electric Mini is something very different. You'll remember I had a Porsche Taycan before, and I often said that there was no point for me in using such a large electric car when all I need is something relatively small to do short distance journeys. Now, the one issue with the electric Mini is the range. I get about 95 miles out of a full charge, and admittedly it doesn't take long to fully charge it because it's a fairly small battery pack, and it is very go-kart like, which is both a pro and a con. Sometimes you want it to have a little bit more stability, other times it does make it really quite fun, but the range is definitely the biggest problem when it comes to this thing. I'd love it to just have a little bit more so I'm able to use it for some of the longer journeys. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not particularly afraid of mileage. We drive all of the Shmeemobiles. Many of them cover thousands of miles a year across the fleet. As I've mentioned before, I think we probably cover 40,000 miles per annum, if not perhaps a little bit more, with cars being driven basically all over the world. So it's a different kind of thing, but it's great, and a huge thanks to the various manufacturers like Audi, like Cupra, like Mini, for the opportunity to spend more time behind the wheels of these different things. So what's up with this then? The body panels for the show car of the Williams FW19. Show car 1, as we found out when we took it up to TDF to strip it apart completely, ready to take all of these over to be painted. Now, at the moment, we have the pretty worn paintwork because the car's been used as a simulator. It's not really been looked after particularly well. And obviously, all we have here are the chassis, the tub, the under trays, the various body panels and parts, and all of the rest is up at TDF. But the plan is to transform it from that design into that. The livery, correct to the year, back in 1997. The livery worn, for example, by the Jacques Villeneuve car in the last year that Williams won the Formula One World Championship. So that's definitely the plan with it, to keep it as a wonderful looking show car. It will be on display. In fact, when this is all been completed and had all of the logos and graphics applied to it and put back together into one piece, the plan is to then have it over this way. Remember, long term here at the Shmuseum, this will become a storage area. We've got our lovely seating area here now, thanks to Westminster Outdoor Living. We've got the garden furniture set just here, and then we'll have the F1 car parked right here. So we've got the chill zone, arcade machines, traffic light, seating, and the cars right alongside. The Halo side of it, the museum side of it, I should say, rather, because we will eventually have the Halo parking space for the newest car, probably the Zenvo, just over here. When we've got some more lifts over on this side, which will also be coming soon. We've got the auto stackers, the A6Ws, the Benpack Auto Stacker A6W. We've got 4 of them. We've got 3 more coming imminently, so stay tuned for that on the Shmuseum channel as well, because we're going to have to work out the parking. We've got the old Clio, the Clio V6, the Heritage will go above the GT500. Then I think we'll have the DBS up top, and we'll have the GT8 and the Vantage Roadster down below. Maybe the 675 LT jumps up there. Then we have the 2 Mercs. We'll have the C63 Black Series probably above, with the GTR Roadster below. and we'll work it out kind of as we go. When we've got some more of the cars back here to try it all out and pop them all into place, because yes, the SLS goes back there, the STO will tuck in here, the SF90, we've got the Lusso. Yes, there's a lot to work out when everything's returned back to their rightful places at home. I mentioned other cars of interest, other cars which I would love to add to the Shmeemobiles, but we'll have to wait and see exactly what happens. Now, the first of those is one I've talked about far too much, which is the Porsche 718 Cayman GT4 RS. Having owned the 981 GT4 and the 718 GT4, and driving a lot at the Nürburgring, it's no surprise that I would love a new GT4 RS. But here in the UK, Porsche have actually only allocated so far one per OPC, one per dealer, which means about 50 cars for the entire country. Now, if I've understood it right, the car is effectively in unlimited build for 2 years or so, which means there will be around 4,000 or 5,000 of them, which you would calculate means the UK should see around 250 to 350 cars. And if that's the case, hopefully, fingers crossed, I'll be able to secure an allocation, but we'll have to wait and see. Time is often the case with the limited GT product Porsches. They're in very high demand here in the UK, also in the USA. It's much easier to buy a GT4 RS in different countries like Belgium, Netherlands, perhaps even Germany. I've spoken to a few dealers where it's possible to purchase a left-hand drive car, but I quite want a right-hand drive one to be part of the collection, my first perhaps permanent Porsche, so I'm holding on, hoping that's going to be possible down the line. The next is a car that launched recently, which was, I suppose, known it was coming, but it was launched in a very unusual, discreet kind of way that not that many people saw, which is the new Mercedes-AMG G63 4x4 Squared. Yes, this generation of the 4x4 Squared is now an AMG product based on the G63 with the 585 horsepower 4-litre bi-turbo V8 lifted with the portal axles, and it just looks immense. So I'm thinking perhaps, having sold my old G63 after 3 years or so, and with a letter of interest for a facelifted G63, if they bring that to the UK, which is not confirmed at this stage, it would be a really cool machine to add. So if it becomes available and if it's possible for me to add one to the AMG side of my collection, I'll certainly try and get that done. The other might not be a huge surprise, but a certain Italian brand is about to release an FUV, a Ferrari utility vehicle, the Puro Sangue, which means pure blood in Italian. The Ferrari SUV, or as I said, FUV, is certainly something that's piquing my interest, available with a V12 from launch, hopefully, and a front mid SUV. If it's like a lifted Lusso, it's going to be right up my street. So I'm waiting to see more about that and to see exactly what that will be like, but I could see it being something, especially with my growing interest in the Ferrari range, that we might be seeing here a little bit further down the line. I think that pretty much covers off the garage update. I've not been pulling the wool over your eyes and selling a car without you knowing about it. Just lots of things that are off for all sorts of different reasons at the moment. But regardless, it is still very bright and colourful here at the Shmuseum, even with 7 or 8 cars currently absent. And when they're all back, plus some future cars, it's going to start looking really rather full, even when we have a few more lifts installed on the storage side. But do not fear, as always, I have a plan for this, so stay tuned for what we're going to be doing a little bit down the line. For now though, lots of things happening. The next plans are going to include a bit more time here in the UK, updates with the cars that are missing, collecting, moving things around, a couple of short hops to some things around Europe, before later in summer heading back to the USA for Monterey Car Week, Quail, Pebble Beach, perhaps even with a Shmeemobile or two. All I know right now is it's going to be mad, whatever happens, so watch out for all of that to come soon. For now though, it's good to be back after a long period on the road. Lots of crazy things have been happening, and I hope you've enjoyed all of the videos. Gumball, going out to Hypercar Invitational, Goodwood Festival of Speed, but now it's time to get back with my feet on the ground and running again before going off on the next adventures. That's it for now though. Thank you very much, as always guys, for all of your support. Do check out the Shmuseum channel if you haven't already for more updates behind the scenes, especially from the guys when I'm on the road, to see what they're getting up to as well back here in the UK. That's it for now though. Thank you very much for watching as always, and I'll see you again very soon. Cheers.